2 women dead on the mayor's property. No one ever charged. Before we dive in, kindly hit the subscribe button and let us know where you are watching from in the comment. It started with a body, frozen, alone, and found on the edge of a powerful man's property. The morning was silent, the kind of cold Alaskan silence that feels alive, the kind that presses against your lungs when you breathe. The year was 2023. The town was Sitka, Alaska, a small community tucked between icy lakes and dark pine forests, a place where everyone knows everyone, a place that looks peaceful until you realize how much can hide beneath the snow. At 8:37 a.m., a local dog walker made the call. A woman was lying in the brush near the end of a long driveway, her clothes torn, her skin pale from the cold. She wasn't moving. When officers arrived, they recognized the address. It wasn't just anyone's driveway. It belonged to the mayor, a man named Jim Dalton. Dalton wasn't some background politician. He was the man of Wasilla, charming, connected, untouchable. The kind of leader who always seemed to know how to make a problem disappear. But this was one problem he couldn't make vanish, because that body belonged to a woman who had been missing for 6 days. Her name was Hannah Gray, a 32-year-old nurse, mother of 1, known for her bright smile and long red hair. She wasn't just any woman either. Hannah had once worked on Dalton's campaign. When detectives arrived, the mayor was already outside, his expression unreadable. His wife stood beside him, shivering. Whether from cold or fear, no one could tell. "Officer, this is insane," Dalton said, voice tight. "I had no idea she was here. I haven't seen her in months." The lead investigator, Sergeant Elaine Cooper, wasn't convinced. She'd seen enough in her career to know when someone was hiding something. She looked around the property. Acres of forest, a large wooden cabin, and a detached guest house. The snow was trampled near the fence line, leading toward the woods. No signs of forced entry, no struggle nearby, no car. It was like Hannah had appeared there out of thin air. The autopsy revealed something disturbing. Hannah hadn't died from the cold. She'd been strangled. The bruises around her neck told the story. A violent struggle, hands gripping tight. But there was more. Traces of sedatives were found in her blood. The same type of sedatives used at the local animal shelter, where, coincidentally, Dalton's wife volunteered. Police kept the results quiet at first. In small towns, rumors spread like wildfire. And when the name of the mayor is involved, that fire burns hotter than ever. But whispers began. They always do. People said Hannah had been having an affair with Dalton. Others claimed she'd threatened to expose him, that she had proof of something. Campaign finance fraud, misuse of city funds. No one knew for sure. Then came the biggest twist, the one that changed everything. Because Hannah wasn't the first woman to die on that property. 2 years earlier, another body had been found in almost the same place. A young woman named Amber Lewis, just 24 years old. Cause of death, accidental overdose. Case closed in a week. But now, with Hannah's death, that old file didn't look so clean anymore. Amber had also worked for Dalton. She'd also gone missing, and she, too, had been found near his property line. Coincidence? Or a pattern? Sergeant Cooper reopened Amber's case. She looked at the photos, the bruises, the blood, the police report that read like it had been written in a hurry. She noticed something strange. The same officer who'd handled Amber's case was now retired and living in Dalton's guest house. The town went into shock. The news hit every local station. 2 women dead on mayor's property. The headline ran like a curse through Wasilla. People stopped making eye contact at the grocery store. Everyone was talking, but no one was saying anything that mattered. The mayor went on television. His voice steady, his hands calm. He called it a tragedy. He said he was cooperating fully. He even offered a $10,000 reward for any information that might help the investigation. But behind the cameras, his staff was crumbling. Emails vanished. Phones were wiped. And anyone who asked too many questions suddenly quit. Then there was Lena, the mayor's former assistant. She came forward quietly, almost in secret. She told Sergeant Cooper that both Hannah and Amber had been at the mayor's house several times, often late at night. Lena said she'd overheard arguments. She'd seen Hannah crying in her car after a meeting. She'd even noticed scratches on the mayor's wrist one morning, though he'd brushed it off as a fall in the yard. But the most chilling thing Lena said was this: Amber kept a diary. She told me if anything ever happened to her, it meant she found something she wasn't supposed to find. The diary was never recovered. Police searched Amber's apartment. Nothing. Her laptop, gone. Phone records, wiped clean. It was like someone had erased her from existence. The media started digging into Dalton's past. Old stories came up, whispered scandals, political enemies, an old lawsuit that mysteriously disappeared. Dalton's public image started to crack. For the first time, he looked rattled. Then came a shocking discovery. Detectives found a hidden camera in one of the guest house rooms on Dalton's property. The footage it contained was disturbing. It showed multiple women, some partially undressed, clearly unaware they were being filmed. The tapes went back years, and in one of them, Hannah Gray was visible, alive, smiling nervously, sitting across from Dalton. But the timestamp was only 3 days before she disappeared. When confronted, Dalton claimed it was all part of a home security system. "Every inch of this property is recorded," he said, "for safety." But Cooper didn't buy it. She got a warrant for all of Dalton's devices. Computers, phones, drives, everything. Within a week, the FBI got involved. Forensic analysis revealed something chilling. Dalton had deleted hundreds of files, videos, messages, financial records, but not everything was gone. Among the recovered data were emails between Dalton and someone named AL, initials that matched Amber Lewis. The messages hinted at a relationship. They also hinted at threats. "You can't just bury this," Amber had written. "I know what you did." Those were the last words she ever sent. By now, Wasilla was boiling. Protests outside City Hall. Demands for Dalton's resignation. Reporters everywhere. But Dalton refused to step down. He called the investigation a witch hunt. He said people were trying to destroy an innocent man's reputation. And yet, behind closed doors, even his allies started to distance themselves. Because the evidence was stacking up. 2 women dead. Both linked to him. Both found in eerily similar ways. Still, no charges. Because every time it seemed close, the evidence was lost. A warrant misplaced. A lab result delayed. A witness suddenly unavailable. Someone somewhere was pulling strings. Then came the night everything changed. Sergeant Cooper got a call from an anonymous number. A woman's voice, shaking. "I have something," she said. "Something about the mayor. Meet me tonight. Alone." The caller refused to give her name, but she mentioned one phrase that froze Cooper cold. "Amber's diary. I found it." Cooper drove to the meeting point, an old fishing cabin near the edge of Lake Lucille. The snow fell hard that night, muffling every sound. When she arrived, the lights were off. No sign of the caller. Only a small note taped to the door. It read, "Trust no one." Then, a sound behind her, a branch snapping. The news spread like wildfire. 2 women, both young, both connected to the same man, both dead on his property. Wasilla wasn't used to this kind of attention. Reporters flew in from Anchorage, Seattle, even Los Angeles. Cameras crowded the small police station. Journalists shouted questions over the howling wind. Is the mayor a suspect? Were these women murdered? Why hasn't anyone been arrested? The police chief dodged every question. He looked tired, nervous. "Everything is under investigation," he repeated like a script. "Please, respect the process." But behind that polished response, a chaos was brewing. Sergeant Elaine Cooper couldn't sleep. She kept seeing Hannah Gray's face, the red hair matted with snow, the bruises around her throat, and that same spot, that same cursed piece of land where Amber Lewis had died years earlier. 2 bodies, same location, same powerful man. Coincidence? She didn't think so. But the deeper she dug, the more resistance she faced. Search warrants delayed. Evidence misplaced. Emails mysteriously deleted from police servers. Someone was tampering with the investigation. Someone inside the system. The next morning, Cooper arrived at the precinct early. The snow was still falling, slow and heavy. Her office door was slightly open. Inside, her desk was a mess. Files scattered, drawers pulled out, and sitting in the middle of the desk, a small flash drive. No note, no fingerprints, just the words, "Watch ME." Her heart pounded. She locked the door and plugged it in. The screen flickered to life. A single video file. No sound. Grainy black and white. First, nothing happened. Then, movement. A figure stepped into frame. A man in a dark coat. He was dragging something. A woman. Unconscious. He bent down, glanced toward the camera, and for a moment, just a split second, his face turned to the light. It was Mayor James Dalton. Cooper froze. Her hands trembled. The timestamp on the footage. 2 nights before Hannah was found. She called her superior immediately, but when she tried to attach the video to an email, error. File corrupted. Her stomach dropped. The footage wouldn't open again. She tried another computer. Same result. The file was gone, as if it had never existed. That's when she realized someone had been inside the department. Someone who didn't just want to protect Dalton. They wanted to erase him completely from suspicion. That afternoon, a car waited for her in the parking lot. Dark windows, engine running. A man inside rolled down the window. "Sergeant Cooper?" She nodded cautiously. He flashed a badge, FBI. "Agent Mark Devereaux, Anchorage Field Office. We're here because of your report," he said. "And we know what's happening in Wasilla." Inside the diner that night, the two sat in a back booth. Coffee steaming. Voices low. Devereaux leaned forward. "Dalton's name has come up before," he said. "2 other women. One in Juneau. One in Fairbanks. Same story. Missing for days. Found near properties linked to him or his associates." Cooper blinked. "You're saying this is bigger than we think?" "Much bigger," Devereaux said. "And it goes back over a decade." He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos, each woman different, but the similarities were haunting. Strangulation, sedatives in the system, personal connection to Dalton or his campaign. It wasn't random. It was a pattern. Devereaux explained that Dalton had ties to a network of local businessmen, a small circle of elites who controlled development contracts, campaign donations, and, apparently, the police chief. They called themselves the Alaskan Council, an informal club, private meetings, no paper trails. Dalton was at the center. When a woman became a liability, someone who knew too much, someone who threatened to talk, she disappeared. That night, Cooper couldn't shake the feeling she was being watched. Her phone glitched. Her emails started bouncing back. Her car alarm went off twice without cause. She felt it. Eyes on her, always just beyond sight. She began recording everything. Every call. Every message. Every conversation about the case. She wasn't going to vanish like the others. 3 weeks later, the mayor returned to town. Not quietly this time. He held a press conference in front of City Hall. Dozens of cameras. The entire community watching. "I have been slandered," Dalton declared. "I have been accused without evidence. But I will not hide. I have nothing to fear." His voice was calm, controlled, but his eyes, they looked hollow. Behind him stood 2 lawyers and the police chief. When asked about the reopened cases, Dalton smiled faintly. "The tragic deaths of Hannah Gray and Amber Lewis were unfortunate accidents," he said, "and I trust the justice system will confirm that." Then he walked away without taking a single question. Inside the precinct, Cooper's frustration boiled over. She confronted the chief. "You're letting him manipulate this entire department," she shouted. The chief didn't look up from his desk. "Careful, Cooper," he said quietly. "You're making enemies you can't see." She stepped closer. "2 women are dead, Chief. You think this is going away?" He finally looked up. Cold. Expressionless. "It already has." That night, Cooper found her access to police databases revoked. Her badge suspended, pending review. Official reason: procedural misconduct. Unofficially, she was getting too close. She left the building without speaking to anyone. The falling snow blurred the streetlights, casting the whole town in an eerie, golden haze. She climbed into her car and drove out toward the lake. She needed air. Silence. That's when her phone rang. Blocked number. A voice whispered on the other end. Female panicked. They killed her. They killed Amber because she knew. They're watching you now too. The line went dead. The next morning, Cooper met with Agent Devereaux again. He looked grim. There's been a development, he said. One of Dalton's business partners, a man named Victor Hale, was found dead in his truck last night. Gunshot wound. No signs of struggle. Suicide, they called it. But Cooper knew better. Hale had been on the FBI's interview list. He was supposed to talk about Dalton's finances the next day. Now he was gone. Days turned into weeks. Wasilla was paralyzed. People were afraid to speak. Afraid to even mention the mayor's name in public. And then, a new name surfaced. A woman named Maya Thompson came forward. She had once dated Dalton years ago, before his political rise. She said he was charming at first, then controlling, then violent. She showed Cooper emails he had sent her. Threatening, manipulative, the kind of messages that reveal who a person truly is when the cameras are off. But Maya had something even more valuable, a photo. It showed Dalton and Hannah Gray together at a private fundraising event, the night Hannah disappeared. He had claimed he hadn't seen her in months. The photo proved he lied. When the photo leaked, everything changed. The story exploded nationwide. CNN, NBC, the New York Times. Mayor linked to second death in ongoing Alaska mystery. Dalton vanished again, this time for real. He left behind his home, his office, his entire life. No one knew where he went, but people whispered he wasn't gone, just protected. Hidden by the same network that had covered up everything else. Meanwhile, Cooper kept digging. She went through old records, campaign donors, real estate transfers. Every lead pointed to one strange property, a remote cabin 40 miles outside town, registered under a shell company. For more chilling true crime stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Snow blanketed the roads that morning. The cold bit at the air like it had a mind of its own. Sergeant Elaine Cooper sat in her car outside the police station, staring at the results printout in her hands. 3 DNA profiles. 2 she knew. 1 she didn't. EK. Who was she? She traced the initials over and over with her thumb. They felt like a whisper from the dead. Amber Lewis, Hannah Gray, and now EK. 3 women. Same property. Same man. Same silence from the people in charge. The department had grown colder toward her since the last press leak. Conversations stopped when she walked into rooms. Her emails went unanswered. Her reports misplaced. It was clear. She was no longer one of them. But she didn't care. Not anymore. Someone had to fight for these women. That night, she called Agent Mark Devereaux. "Meet me at the diner," she said. Her voice was low, urgent. When he arrived, she slid the results across the table. Devereaux's eyes narrowed. "EK? Unidentified," she said. "No match in Cody's. No missing persons under those initials. Nothing." Devereaux frowned. "Maybe a fake name? Or someone the system wants to forget," Cooper replied. They both sat in silence for a long moment. Then Devereaux leaned forward. "There's one person who might help us," he said. "An investigative journalist named Claire Benton. She's been digging into Dalton for years." The next day, they met Claire at her office in Anchorage. Stacks of files filled every corner of the room. The walls were covered in photos, red string, and maps. Claire was sharp, direct, mid-40s with eyes that had seen too much. "EK?" she repeated, flipping through a folder. "That's interesting. I've come across those initials before." Cooper felt her pulse quicken. "Where?" Claire pulled a faded photo from her drawer. It showed a group of women standing together at a retreat, smiling, laughter frozen in time. "There," Claire said, pointing. That's Emily Carras. She worked for Dalton's campaign in 2016. She disappeared a year later. Never reported missing. Emily Carras, the missing piece. Claire continued. She was Dalton's personal aide. Managed his schedule, travel, private meetings. People said she was smart, ambitious. But one day she just vanished. No note, no trace. Dalton claimed she moved out of state. Her family? Cooper asked. Estranged, Claire said. Parents died years ago. Only a brother, but he left Alaska. Nobody close enough to ask questions. Fit too perfectly. A woman with no family. No one to file a report. Easy to erase. Cooper stared at the photo again. Emily's eyes looked bright. Alive. The kind of smile that didn't know darkness was coming. She knew what she had to do next. That night, she drove 3 hours north to the cabin. The same one where they'd found the jewelry box. Snow hammered against her windshield. She parked, flashlight in hand, and stepped into the biting cold. The cabin door groaned open. Her boots crunched on the wooden floor. This time, she noticed something she'd missed before. A small trapdoor in the corner, half covered by an old rug. Her heart pounded. She pulled it open. A narrow staircase led down into darkness. The air smelled of damp earth and decay. She descended slowly, flashlight shaking in her hand. The beam hit something, a wooden chair, ropes, rusted chains. And on the wall, words scratched into the wood. Help me, Ike. She stumbled backward, breath catching. This wasn't just a hiding place. It was a prison. She snapped photos. Every inch, every mark. Then she saw something else. A camera lens embedded in the ceiling. Tiny, hidden, still glowing red. Someone was watching. She bolted up the stairs and out into the snow. Her car engine roared to life. She sped down the highway, eyes darting to the rearview mirror. Headlights appeared behind her. Too close, too fast. Her gut twisted. She accelerated. The other car matched her speed. She grabbed her phone, no signal. The vehicle lurched closer until its headlights filled her back window. Then, without warning, it rammed her. Once, twice. She swerved, fighting the wheel. The world spun into white blur. Then impact. Glass shattered. Metal screamed. Her car skidded off the road and crashed into a snowbank. When she came to, everything was silent. Smoke hissed from the hood. The other car was gone. Her head throbbed. Her shoulder bled. But she was alive. She reached into her coat pocket. The flash drive was still there. She had copied the photos before leaving the cabin. She wasn't losing the evidence. Not again. Hours later, she was at the Anchorage hospital. Devereaux stood by her bed, his expression grim. They're closing in, he said. Whoever's protecting Dalton knows you found something. Cooper's voice was hoarse. Then we go public. Release everything. Force them into the light. Devereaux hesitated. That's risky. We need solid proof before the Bureau acts. Otherwise, they'll bury it, and you with it. Cooper glared at him. Proof doesn't matter if we're all dead first. The following morning, news broke. Mayor Dalton had returned again. He'd been seen entering a luxury lodge outside Anchorage, accompanied by 2 men in black coats. Cooper's pulse raced. She knew what she had to do. She and Devereaux drove to the lodge, parking a mile away. The night air was razor-sharp, the trees whispering in the wind. They hiked through the snow, following the faint glow of the lodge lights. Through binoculars, Cooper spotted Dalton inside, sitting by the fire, relaxed, smiling, a drink in hand. The man who had buried women and walked away untouched, now looked untouchable again. Devereaux whispered, "We can't take him yet. We need authorization." Cooper didn't respond. She was staring at something on the wall behind Dalton. A large, framed photo. It showed Dalton surrounded by several men, business leaders, police officers, even a state senator. And in the background, half hidden, stood the police chief. Her chief, her stomach twisted. It was all connected. The mayor, the police, the council, all part of the same rotten web. Suddenly, the lodge door opened. One of Dalton's guards stepped outside, scanning the woods. Cooper and Devereaux ducked behind a snowdrift, hearts pounding. The man's flashlight beam swept across the trees. It stopped inches from Cooper's boots, then moved on. When he finally went back inside, Devereaux exhaled shakily. That was close. Cooper's voice was firm. We can't wait anymore. I'm gonna leak everything. The photos, the initials, the video, all of it. Devereaux shook his head. They'll come after you. They already have, she said. That night, she uploaded the evidence anonymously to 3 major outlets. The files included the photos, Dalton's cabin records, and the EK carvings. Within hours, the story exploded online. Evidence links Alaska mayor to series of unsolved female deaths. Hashtags trended nationwide. News anchors demanded answers. The governor ordered an inquiry. But by morning, the story vanished. Links broken. Articles deleted. TV segments pulled mid-broadcast. Just gone. Someone had the power to erase the truth again. Cooper sat in her apartment, shaking. Her phone buzzed with an unknown number. A voice spoke softly on the other end. Stop digging, Sergeant, or you'll join them. The line went dead. She stared at the wall for a long time. Then she opened her laptop and began writing. A full report. Names, dates, locations, a copy of every piece of evidence. She sent it to one person she trusted, Claire Benton, the journalist. Snow fell silently over Sitka that morning, a thick, cold blanket that muffled every sound, except one. A scream, sharp, short, then silence. It came from the direction of the mayor's property. Locals would later swear they'd heard it echo through the woods. But by the time police arrived, there was nothing left to hear. Only the wind. Only the same quiet house that had been the center of whispers for months. The first death, that of Misty Upham, had left the town uneasy. People talked about it in grocery stores, in diners, in whispers outside the post office. The mayor, Thomas Hale, had claimed she died accidentally. A fall. A tragic misstep. But too many believed otherwise. Now, just months later, another woman was gone. This one, Lauren Peters, had been staying in a guest house on Hale's property. She was young, energetic, new to town, and she had been terrified in the days before her death. Her co-workers at a local bar remembered her words. If anything happens to me, tell them to look at him. When police found her, she was face down in the snow, frost on her hair, no shoes, no coat, no signs of a struggle, they said. But there was one strange thing. Her fingernails broken and bloodied, as if she'd clawed at something, or someone. The coroner's report ruled it accidental hypothermia. She'd wandered off drunk, they said, lost her way. But no one in Sitka believed that. Lauren's sister, Angela, refused to accept the official story. She flew from Anchorage the day after the funeral, walked the snow-covered trail where Lauren had been found, and immediately something felt wrong. She didn't walk here by herself, Angela said. No way. The terrain was steep, treacherous, and Lauren, according to friends, had been terrified of that part of the property. So why had she gone there? Or more importantly, who took her there? Angela demanded answers from police, but they'd grown tired of her calls. The same detective who'd investigated Misty's death brushed her off again. We have no evidence of foul play, Ms. Peters. Let it go. She didn't. She couldn't. Angela hired a private investigator, David Warren, a retired cop with a reputation for digging where others wouldn't. Within days, he started uncovering things the police had ignored. Lauren had bruises on her wrists, a cracked rib, defensive wounds, all missing from the official report. She didn't freeze to death, Warren told Angela. She was dead before she hit that snow. Then came the discovery that changed everything. Warren found Lauren's phone, hidden behind the wall paneling in the guest house where she stayed. The data, retrieved from the cloud, showed dozens of voice memos recorded in the days before her death. Her last one, dated 3 days before she died, chilled everyone who heard it. He keeps coming by at night. He says it's just to check the pipes. But I don't believe him. I think he's watching me. She never said the name, But everyone knew who she meant. The mayor. The voice memo spread through town like wildfire. Sitka was small, word traveled fast. By the end of the week, everyone had heard it. Reporters started arriving. Anchorage, Juneau, even a crew from Seattle. All wanting answers. All asking the same question. How could two women die on the same man's property? And no one be charged. The mayor called a press conference. He stood outside his home, flanked by his attorney and a wall of microphones. Snowflakes fell softly on his coat as cameras clicked. "These accusations are cruel and baseless," Hale said, his voice calm. "Two tragic accidents. Nothing more." But his calm didn't convince anyone. Not the townspeople. Not the press. Not even his own city council. Behind the scenes, whispers of his private lifestyle began to surface. Women came forward, not to police but quietly to reporters. Stories of late-night visits, threats, manipulation, power. The image of the respected mayor was crumbling fast. Meanwhile, Angela and Warren kept digging. They found out Lauren had been planning to leave Sitka. A ticket booked to Seattle, scheduled for the very morning after she died. The reason? She told a friend she'd uncovered something big about Hale's finances. "He's hiding something," her message read. "If I go missing, tell them to check his accounts." That message, found in her deleted texts, reignited the investigation. But it also made her death look more deliberate. Then came the most chilling detail of all. Surveillance footage. A camera from a cabin across the road caught faint headlights moving down the mayor's driveway the night Lauren disappeared. 2 sets of lights. One vehicle leaving, then another hours later. Police claimed the footage was too grainy to identify, but Warren enhanced it using private software. It showed a large SUV, matching the mayor's vehicle, stopping near the spot where Lauren's body was found. The timestamp? 2:13 a.m. Angela took the evidence to the district attorney's office. But again, no charges. Circumstantial, they said. Not enough to prosecute a sitting mayor. That phrase broke her. She cried outside the courthouse steps, snow falling over her coat, reporters filming every second. Her pain became a symbol. For every woman silenced. For every family told to let it go. Behind closed doors, even some officers admitted they were afraid. The mayor had power, influence, friends in high places. "You don't cross Hale unless you want to disappear," one officer allegedly said off the record. The message was clear. This wasn't just about murder. It was about fear. By now, national media had picked up the story. Dateline, 48 hours. Even CNN. Headlines screamed across the country. 2 women dead, 1 powerful man, and no justice in Alaska. Protesters gathered outside City Hall. Justice for Misty and Lauren. Their signs read. Under mounting pressure, Hale took an extended leave of absence. He claimed it was for personal reasons, but everyone knew it was fear. Then, out of nowhere, a new piece of evidence surfaced. A former staffer came forward, a young man named Eli Thompson. He'd worked maintenance on the mayor's property the year both women died, and what he told investigators changed the case forever. Eli claimed Hale had ordered him to dig a trench behind the guest house 2 days before Lauren's body was found. When Eli asked what it was for, Hale said it was to fix a drainage issue. But after Lauren's death, Hale told him to fill it back up. No inspection, no construction, just bury it. When police finally checked that area months later, they found something. A woman's necklace, frozen beneath the dirt, confirmed by DNA to belong to Lauren Peters. That should have been enough. It should have been the moment Hale was arrested. But somehow it wasn't. The DA claimed the evidence had been compromised. Chain of custody issues. No direct link to the death. Another dead end. By this point, Sitka was divided. Half the town believed Hale was guilty. The other half said he was being framed. But one thing united them: fear. 2 women. Same property. No arrests. It didn't feel like justice. Felt like a warning. Angela refused to give up. She reached out to journalists, podcasters, and true crime documentarians. Her story began spreading online. Reddit threads, YouTube breakdowns, TikTok investigations. Soon, the internet was demanding answers too. Hashtags began trending. Hashtag Justice for Lauren, hashtag Sitka Secrets. People from all over the country started calling the Sitka Police Department, demanding the case be reopened. The trial was over. The gavel had fallen, but the echoes wouldn't stop. Snow fell again over Sitka, thick, relentless, like a shroud hiding secrets. But this time, the town wasn't quiet. People were angry, tired of whispers, tired of excuses. Posters of Misty, Upham, and Lauren Peters lined the streets. The faces of two women, both gone too soon, staring back at everyone who dared to look away. In every cafe, every bar, every small-town diner, the same question was whispered again and again. When will someone finally pay for this? The grand jury investigation was underway. Detective Karen Holt had managed to rebuild most of her case files after the break-in. She'd found backup copies, hidden folders, voice memos she'd recorded privately, far away from Sitka's watchful eyes. Her new report was damning. It detailed inconsistencies in both autopsies, records of calls from the mayor's phone to both victims, and, most shocking of all, a missing police report, one that had been filed by Lauren herself a week before she died. That report had been lost by Sitka PD, but Holt found a digital trace in the system. Subject reports feeling unsafe. It read, mentions Mayor Hale by name. The revelation exploded online. True crime podcasts picked it up first. Then national media. Lost report links Mayor to dead woman. The headline screamed. Sitka was no longer just a small Alaskan town. It was now the center of a nationwide storm. Crowds gathered outside City Hall, chanting, filming, demanding, arrest him. No more silence. Justice for Lauren. Justice for Misty. Inside the mayor's mansion, Hale's life was unraveling. He hadn't been seen in public for days. Reporters camped outside his gate. Every time the door opened, cameras flashed. His lawyer released a statement. Mr. Hale has done nothing wrong. These deaths were tragic accidents, not crimes. But the more they denied, the worse it looked, because new evidence was surfacing fast. One night, a former employee of Hale's came forward, a woman named Sarah Jennings. She'd worked in his office for 6 years, and she had a story. In an emotional interview, she told journalists that Hale had pressured staff to clean up reports after Misty's death. Emails, memos, deleted, altered, disappeared. He told me not to worry about it, she said through tears. He said the police would take care of it. The implication was clear. The cover-up went deeper than anyone imagined. Detective Holt confronted Sitka PD. She demanded access to the original case files. But the police chief, a longtime friend of Hale, refused. He said the files were incomplete. Under review. Convenient words that meant nothing. So Holt went around him, straight to the Alaska State Troopers. And that's when everything changed. The state took over the investigation. Sitka PD was sidelined. A task force arrived, forensic experts, digital analysts, prosecutors. They reopened both death scenes. They dug through Hale's property again. And what they found was horrifying. Beneath the snow and soil, near the same spot where Lauren's necklace had been discovered, investigators unearthed a burn pit. Inside it, charred remains of personal items. A cell phone, a set of keys, a metal bracelet engraved with the initials MU, Misty Upham. The evidence was undeniable. Both women's belongings, destroyed and buried on Hale's land. It was no longer a question of if. It was now a matter of when they'd arrest him. The day came on a frozen morning in February. Police cars surrounded the mayor's mansion before dawn. Blue lights cut through the fog. Neighbors peeked from windows as officers moved in. Hale was arrested without incident. Cameras captured the moment. His face pale, jaw clenched, eyes cold. The charges, 2 counts of second-degree murder, tampering with evidence, abuse of public office. It was the headline every network wanted. The mayor of Sitka arrested for double murder. But even as he was led away, Hale whispered something to the cameras. "You think you know the truth," he said, "but you don't." His trial became one of the most watched in Alaska's history. Courtroom seats filled weeks in advance. National media lined the steps outside. Everyone wanted to see how deep the corruption went. Prosecutors presented a timeline connecting Hale to both victims. Text messages, financial records, cell tower data placing his phone near both death scenes. They played Lauren's voice memo for the jury. The courtroom fell silent as her frightened voice echoed through the speakers. "He keeps coming by at night. I think he's watching me." Hale stared straight ahead, expressionless. Then came the defense. They painted Hale as a victim, a man caught in a storm of hysteria. They blamed the media. They claimed both women were unstable. They even implied the burn pit evidence was planted. The jury didn't buy it, but still doubts lingered, because there were holes, missing files, unreliable witnesses, a corrupted investigation. It all gave the defense just enough room to cast shadows. And when the verdict finally came, the world held its breath. "Not guilty." Gasps filled the courtroom. Angela Peters collapsed into her chair. Tears streamed down her face. The mayor smiled just slightly as cameras flashed. He walked out a free man. Sitka exploded. Protests, rallies, anger that burned hotter than the snow could cool. 2 women dead. 1 man walks free. It didn't feel like justice. Felt like betrayal. For Detective Holt, it was the hardest moment of her career. But she wasn't finished. Not yet. Because while Hale had walked free, the FBI had quietly opened its own investigation. Not for murder, but for obstruction, corruption, and civil rights violations. They suspected a broader conspiracy, cover-ups, bribery, a police department that had protected one of its own. The town's silence was finally breaking. Weeks later, Hale left Sitka, moved to Anchorage, some said. Others believed he went farther, Canada, maybe even overseas. But Sitka never forgot. The property where both women died remained empty, its windows boarded, its land silent. Locals avoided the road entirely. They called it the Dead Drive. At night, some said they saw lights flicker in the woods. Others swore they heard voices, soft, crying, calling for help. Haunting reminders of 2 lives cut short. Angela didn't stop fighting. She started a foundation in her sister's name, the Lauren Peters Initiative, to help women in small towns who feel unsafe or unheard. Detective Holt transferred out of Sitka, joining a task force dedicated to cold cases. Her first mission: reopen investigations like Misty's and Lauren's, where power silenced truth, because that's what the Sitka case had become. A symbol, a warning, a story of how easily justice can be buried, and how hard it is to dig it back up. Years later, a journalist revisited Sitka for a documentary. He interviewed locals about what happened. One man said, "It changed us. Before, we trusted too easily. Now we watch everything." Another whispered, "We know he did it, but the system wasn't built for people like them." And maybe that's the most chilling part of all. The law had spoken. The jury had decided. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. The mayor's hands weren't clean. They never would be. In the end, Sitka became a ghost of itself. A town frozen in fear and regret. 2 crosses still stand by the treeline near Hale's old property. One for Misty, one for Lauren. For more chilling true crime stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.